Hi, everyone, and welcome to Driving Digital Transformation in State and Local Government. Today, we have a use case for you about improving user experience with modern UI. And I think for a lot of directors at local and state agencies that this will be a very, very familiar use case or case study that you may be dealing with in your organization. So on the agenda today to talk more about the issue, I'm going to give you an introduction to the customer who we were working with, some of their problem statements around an aging on-prem client system, and then from the highest level, a technical view about the implementations that we made and the changes that we made and the migrations to modern application frameworks and to Azure, some of the outcomes of that, and then ultimately how that positioned them for future benefits. I'm Eric Seaman. I'm a managing consultant at Catapult. I was lucky enough to be part of this team organizing the work and ensuring the client was receiving the most value as possible. And ultimately, this is a very successful iteration of a long-standing application that we had at WRS, Wyoming Retirement System. But to start, I want to give you a little bit of overview about Wyoming Retirement System. So they're formed in 1953. Like a lot of retirement systems across the country, they're managed state contributions, pensions, member benefits. They have roughly 41,000 members. Moderate size fund, about 10 billion in funds, and they pay out roughly 58 million a month in benefits. 79% still residents living in the state of Wyoming. And one more interesting fact is that far beyond the individual benefits to the pensioners, the benefits generated more than $15 billion in economic impact in 2020. So a large part of the state economy and a major contributor to the state. The relationship with Catapult and Wyoming Retirement System goes way back. One of our longest standing customers, an app dev, if not the longest standing customer. 10 years ago, we essentially developed a solution for them for their pension administration system. They call that RAIN, Retirement Investment Network. And that replaced their proprietary system. This system was also being used at Houston's police officer pension system and was modified and licensed for Wyoming to also use. And however, as many of you might know, especially if you're overseeing applications or technology departments, you will know that aging on-prem client systems essentially slow our teams down and require a lot of maintenance to keep the system running. They have low satisfaction with both the stakeholders, the frontline workers who are using the system, and then ultimately those benefiting from the system. No different for WRS. Essentially, this decade-old system was seeing performance issues like you would expect. This was further complicated by the data having to travel from an on-premise data center at the state of Wyoming and transfer data in encrypted forms to client machines, and then using those client machines to actually do the processing of a lot of large business logic and essentially that old model of running a system on a client machine is outdated, and it was one cause of the users seeing downtime or pages failing to load, load times in the minutes, and really just the tip of the iceberg. From there, it was a difficult system to upgrade and to efficiently manage, especially as you know, in government agencies with legislatively mandated changes that need to happen on a specific time frame. That made it very difficult to get to anything besides for what was legislatively mandated. So any nice to haves or want to haves often were shelved year after year and making it difficult to upgrade the system and make the experience improved. It wasn't only the data center and the encrypting and the the data going across the wire and causing issues, but essentially um, the old platform, the old framework, the .NET system that it was originally built on, left a lot desired from a UI UX perspective, and especially for the modern worker who is expecting web-based applications, it no longer became tenable to operate this system. It was a source of frustration, waiting, inefficiency, and especially in 2020 with COVID and more workers working off-site. It only compounded the problems, adding VPNs on top of the issue, slower load times, and it ultimately forced Wyoming state workers to come in for WRS and to perform the jobs on site when oftentimes those were not the best conditions for the employees. So um, a very common use case study here where we have an aging system that is essentially causing pain to the organization, and that inefficiencies, load time, um, difficult to enhance and update. So, there were several options here. I feel many um, organizations would have simply addressed the fact that it was an older client technology. They probably would have rewrote it in some aspect as far as give it a facelift as far as from a UI perspective. But I don't think that, and the Catapult team did not think that that would have ultimately addressed the underlying issues and put WRS in the position that it needed to be in. So ultimately, we decided to have a holistic approach to where we not only plan to update the UI with the most recent Blazor application, but also to update the backend and migrate the SQL databases to Azure. Um, in effect, the project took roughly 1 year to accomplish, which is a pretty expedited time frame. But as we see here, that in the outcomes that are about to be spoken to, uh, ultimately, the best decisions for applications and organizations not only solve the problem in the near term, the performance issues, the ability to work remotely, but organically solve the long-term problems for the organization on how to maintain this application, how to enhance this application, and how to leverage so many of the advanced tools and modern application features that are on the scene today that weren't there 10 years ago. So not only did we rewrite the application in Blazor .NET framework, but we also updated it to run in Azure. And ultimately, we couldn't have been happier, and the organization couldn't have been happier with the new architecture. Several months passed, 6 months past the go live or so. The new architecture, as it says here, dramatically improve the responsiveness, the availability, the ability to enhance the application, and ultimately, it's easy to quantify the outcomes and the problems when we look at the business problem of performance and speed and inability to access the system. All those things rise to the top as soon as we provide a new application for the users in Azure. Uh, we now have metrics around that data. Um, Users are no longer complaining about performance time. The word speed rarely comes up unless the statement is made that, oh, that process used to take a day and now it takes less than an hour. So ultimately, we enabled users to be more effective. And I'm sure you all preach this inside your organizations, that if the end user, the ultimate end user and your customers, and in this case, the pensioners and the participants in the Wyoming state plans are not seeing those benefits, the question comes up, why are we spending the money and the investment to do these things? And this very much was the case that we reduced, the time to complete jobs. We are able to automate more jobs and server level actions and essentially saving cost and material with the Azure spend over your typical on-prem data center costs and upkeep. So, in short, not only did the agency solve the simplified business use case of needing more performance, a faster application, um, but by solving these problems with a holistic approach, uh, by hosting them, migrating them to Azure, and then secondly, rewriting the application with a modern framework. Um, they took it past that initial uh, business problem and put themselves in a better position and focus for the future. So it didn't stop with rewriting them and migrating them to Azure. Essentially, that opened a door to many possibilities where we were immediately able to automate things like backups and patching, um, you know, things like high availability and disaster recovery, and enhanced Azure pipelines all come into play for the application that were never even on the roadmap before. And the enhanced security and ability to monitor health and monitor costs, and strengthen things based on Defender recommendations was eye-opening and basically gave us new avenues to realize value for the Wyoming retirement system pensioners, their those folks administering and managing the products, and ultimately created new opportunities to get closer to their data. And we're looking into things and working with them now to advance their data analytics with Power BI. But all these things are to say that modernizing your application can center around one single use case and can center around um, solving one business problem. In this case, the performance, and essentially allowed them to see a new roadmap once that was accomplished, and it was accomplished organically in the right ways and holistically. It brings new opportunities to the table, and that's very much where WRS has found themselves now, and we're very proud of the migration and the work that we've done to um, take this application, which we built 10 years ago, and maintained in the meantime, taken to a place where it is truly an advanced modern application, solving and meeting the needs of their team and their participants. So if you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out. There's a QR code throughout the slides that you can scan to connect with experts. And we'd very much like your feedback on the presentation, but there's plenty to uncover underneath the hood. But hopefully this gives you a taste of what an aging application can become. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time today.